Yeah, I think maybe just as an intro to us. So my name's Allison. I'm a and Azure Cloud and AI consultant at Microsoft. I went to UBC. I was in chemical engineering and minored in commerce. And I ran track at UBC and also did the ski team, cross country, that is. Also lived in Whistler for my last semester, so that was super fun. And last time I was there, I said hi to Antonio. He was there, so it was really nice to meet everyone in person. And such a great initiative that you guys have going on, and just happy to be part of it. Maybe Pavneet, if you want to.
Yeah. Hey, I'm Pavneet. I'm a data scientist with Microsoft, based in Vancouver. Previously, I've been here for almost like 5 years now. Previously, I did my PhD in computer science from Singapore, and then I moved here for work. So I've been involved with Volt UBC for I think 3 years or so. I've been involved in multiple events and all, and thanks to Antonio and everyone for this workshop and amazing initiatives.
Thank you.
So everyone has the data set, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So who has Power BI desktop and who has the service? Does everyone have desktop version?
Most of us should have desktop.
Okay, awesome. So I can share my screen. Oh god. This one. Okay.
Oh, I see one question about the data set. Just to let those know who joined late, you can access the data set through the bootcamp resource Google folder that we shared. I'll send one more in the chat. And then we're good to start.
Okay, awesome. So I'll just do a new file because that is where you guys are starting. So essentially just intro to Power BI. What we're going to be walking through is uploading a data set, kind of going very high level over a data model and what that is. Sorry, my Power BI is being annoying. I'm going to share my other screen. How about that? Sorry. So high level overview of connecting to a data set, going over the data model, what the data model entails, again, high level, modifying the data set a bit, and then building some super basic visuals, but that can give you good insight into what Power BI can do. That makes sense to everyone? Cool. Is everyone on this Power BI high-level file right now? Awesome. Okay, so first thing you're going to do is get data. So within get data, when it comes up, just loading a bit. Also, background noise. There might be a dog in the background. If you hear any background noise, that is it. So because we are connecting to an Excel workbook, we'll choose Excel. But when you get further into Power BI, you can connect to a database, Power Platform, different Azure services. So there's a lot of different data sources that you can connect with, and then these can upload more readily and can be more real-time data versus an Excel workbook that just has to be updated constantly. But just for the purposes of this workshop, we're going to do the Excel. So we'll select Excel and then click connect. Within whatever file system you have, select the data set that we sent. So for me, it's here. And then click open. Just comment or yell at me if I'm going too fast. I am happy to slow down. When everyone sees this, so we want to select all of the sheets here. Those are essentially all the sheets in the Excel file. Table 13 is equivalent to the housing data table, so we don't need to select that because that would be a duplicate. Every time Excel has a table as the first page and then pivot tables on the other pages, there'll be a table 13 and then a replicate of that table, in this case, housing data. So we just want to select all of those, and then we'll click transform data, not load. We want to go to transform data first because we want to look at all the data sources that we have and make any modifications as needed. As you'll see, like roof style has column 1 and then roof style. So we want to change that so that the first row is the header instead of it being column 1. So I'll click transform data. And this will bring you to Power Query Editor. If you want to modify, create any functions or literally any analysis on the data, you'll go to Power Query Editor, and this is where you can create calculated columns or different measures to perform further analysis on the data. But for our case, we're just gonna do some high level stuff and then go to building the graphs and stuff. So whatever table you land on, the same thing's going to be applied. So roof style, you see the roof style is in the first row instead of the column name. So what we want to do is we want to promote this to the header, and you'll be in your home tab and you see this button that says use first row as header. Just click that, and that'll make sure that roof style is the header. You'll notice that in the applied steps, that is change type, and that's what happens in your applied steps. And if you want to see what's happened in your applied steps, you can go back. So let's see, like, oh, it changed the type to ABC, but now it changed the type again to ABC after the promoted headers. Not really necessary, so you can remove that because that'll reduce the size of the data model. Does that make sense to everyone? Yeah, cool. So we'll do the same thing, go to still condition, still column 1. So this is a messy data set, but it's good to learn the different functions that are available. Don't need change column, so we'll go back to neighborhood, same thing. So you can just go through this on your own and perform the same actions. When we get to housing data, we'll come back to this. So just save that one for the end. Just go to all the other tables and promote the first row to headers. And you'll notice within Power Query Editor, there's a bunch of different things you can do. So you can change the data type, replace values, merge queries, append queries. So when your data model becomes bigger and you have a massive data set, then these functions become super valuable. But for our data set right now, we're just going to keep it simple. When everyone's done, if you can give me like a thumbs up, then we can move to the housing data table. Yeah, okay, cool. So within the housing data table, you'll notice, so if we scroll all the way to the right, sale price is listed here. And what we can do within Power Query Editor is change the data type. So you can either change it within the column heading itself, or you can change it up here. So just to give a shortcut per se, you'll click the like 1, 2, 3 in that top left corner, and you can change it to a dollar value. So because the change type is a step here in the applied steps, we can say replace with current, and that'll just remove a step and again reduce the number of queries that the model has to run, and therefore reduce the model size. That is the only modification that we're going to make to the housing data, just to kind of speed through this. So once you're done everything, then we can click close and apply, and that'll apply all your data changes to your model. The next step will go through the model itself. And then we can make some connections for our fact table, which is our housing data table. And then the other tables that we have as filter tables or dimension tables, and then we can get onto building graphs. Actually, one thing, I know Antonio, last year we sent the theme, the UBC theme that we made. I don't know if you still have that file. I can send it to again, but that's just like an additional thing that we can add, but is not necessary. We can go over that later though. So once you've
I think we
applied,
only have, sorry.
oh no, go for it.
Yeah, I think we only have what you sent us today, the housing data for now.
Okay. I can send you this. After, or I'll send it after, but just show it on mine, like what you guys can do.
Yeah, I can
Okay.
So
meanwhile
once you've
share in
applied,
the OneDrive. Yeah, you go ahead, Elson. I can share.
so once all the data changes have been applied, then we'll go to our model view, and just to go over these. So the report view, this is where you build your visualizations, build a report. The table view is, or the data view, sorry, is where you can see all your data tables, and then the model view is where you see your data models. So there's going to be a bunch of tables just kind of scattered amongst this piece. We're going to close that. And we want to connect all the data tables or all the dimension tables, so the smaller tables that we have, to our main fact table, and that's the housing data. So you might see some connections already made, but if you see what I see, so heating type, for example, what you want to do to create a connection from your dimension table to your main fact table is just click and literally just drag it to the heating column. And that creates the relationship between the two tables, and therefore you can filter using your heating table. So you can imagine if your heating table is a little bit more in depth. So let's say you have heating type by housing type, and there's a few different relationships that you can make within that table, then it can be a super useful way to filter your housing data table with your heating type table. So we'll do the same with the building table. So if you scroll within your fact table, the building type is BLDG type. So you'll take this column and drag it there. And then same thing with your neighborhood table. And just to go over this data model pretty quickly, so you'll see a star here and like a 1 here. So that means that's like a many to one relationship, and we can double click. Oh shit, not on that. I mean, shoot, not on that. If you double click on your arrow, then you can see the housing data table and the neighborhood table, see that neighborhood is connected to neighborhood. You can see that this is a many to one relationship. So that means that in the housing data table, there's multiple occurrences of every single occurrence that is in the neighborhood table. So within the neighborhood table, each of the neighborhoods is listed once, and then within the housing data table, neighborhood is listed multiple times. So that's just quick there. Any questions? I know I'm talking very fast, but no questions, then we can move on. Okay. All right. So the theme that I talked about, what a theme does is it's just a JSON file that you can upload. And what that is it can tailor the fonts, the colors to whatever theme that you want your report to be. And where you go for that is the view tab. So for, I don't know if Antonio, if you uploaded it to the OneDrive.
I think Pavni shared a link to everyone in the chat. So just to click that link, you can access.
If you want, and then all the visuals will change to your guys's font palette and color palette. So once the JSON file is uploaded, then you should get that message. And if you guys don't have the file, no problem. Antonio, I don't know if you uploaded it, but if not, this is just to show that the theme can be implemented.
Oh, it glitched for me for a second, so I couldn't hear what you mentioned earlier. But everyone again, please.
Yeah. So to change the theme, go to the View tab at the top here. You'll click this little down arrow on theme, so you can change the theme, like wherever, to whatever color palette you want, font, etc. But for our purposes, we'll go to Browse for Themes, and then wherever you have your UBC theme stored, then you can click on that and click Open, and then that'll be applied across the report. And I didn't configure it perfectly, so it's kind of hideous here, but you can make it better. This is just representative. Okay, are we good on that? Yeah. Okay. So just for to start off, just to make everything kind of uniform, we can insert different buttons and different shapes into the report to make sure that every page looks the same. So choose your shape choice, whatever you want. I was going to do a rectangle because it's just easy. And what we'll do here is just create a header for our report. Because it's on housing data, I'm optimistic. I'm gonna say UBC housing or Vancouver housing. Not gonna be Vancouver housing prices, but again, we can be optimistic. So once you have whatever shape you want, if you go to style, then you can add some text to it. So you'll click on over here to make sure your text is on and applied. And then say Vancouver housing prices 20, let's say 26. So maybe we can buy a house in 2026. Who knows? Pretty small, don't like that. Maybe we'll go to size 40. That's kind of nicer. And see what the report's about. And once we have that, then Pavni's going to do a second page. So we'll label this page just our overview page. You can name it whatever you want. But this is kind of going to be a high level page on the housing data and what we want to see. So once we have that, then the first graph we're going to do, because if we look at our housing data table, we have our sale price, and that's our primary focus of this report. We want to see the sale price and how it changes over time based on different factors. So for our first graph, we can do a clustered column chart. We want to include sale price, and honestly, you can see whatever factors are change over time. For me, I want to understand how the sale price is different depending on the year sold. And then I also want to see how the sale price is dependent on the condition of the house. So we'll see sale condition, and you'll see if you click on each of these columns, then it's gonna just throw them into the fields randomly. So what we want to do is for the y-axis, we do want to have the sale price. However, for the year sold, then we want that either as a legend or the x-axis. For me, I want the x-axis, and the legend is going to be the sale condition. This is the sum of the sale price. So to change that to see an average, we'll click on the down arrow and we'll change that to average. So this shows you the average of the sale price depending on the year sold and the sale condition. So the sale conditions are those different color bars, year sold, and then average sale price. And you can see a trend if you go to our analysis tab, and you can see our average line. Add a line, average line. And this just shows you an average, but you can also you can change whatever line or constant line that you desire, but that's just an additional feature that you can add. This doesn't tell you too much because the average is just under 2 million, but you can change, or 0.2 million, sorry, the average sale price. You can change this, how it's represented when you go to our y-axis, and then you can change how the range is displayed and how the values are displayed. So if we want to see different decimal places, then that changes this. And you can just play around with that until it suits your purpose. Another point that I want to make, when you are presenting a graph and it has like YR sold and sale condition not spaced, you would typically in our Power Query editor rename the columns, rename everything. But for our purposes right now, if we go back to this field, we can rename our x-axis to year sold, for example. And then that just kind of cleans everything up a bit. But again, we would do that in Power Query editor if we can. And then you don't have to make multiple iterations if you use the same fields on different graphs. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, cool. Another useful visualization that we can use is our card. So this is just like a KPI card that gives the user, whoever's consuming the report, a high level view of whatever we're trying to project. So this is Vancouver, hopefully, housing prices. And because again, sale price is our main indicator, this is our sum of sale price, and that's just not realistic. So again, average, this gives us a view of the average sale price across 2006 to 2010. To create a few filters within this report so that we can isolate certain pieces of the report, what we can do is use these slicers. So to add a visual, again, you can click on the slicer. And for our purposes, we're looking at year sold. So let's add a year sold filter to this report. And when you add it, it's gonna have this scaling value, and that's not super useful sometimes. Sometimes it's applicable, but if we go to our format pane over here and slicer settings, then we can change this to vertical list, tile dropdown, a bunch of different views of the slicer. So in our case, we're going to do a drop down, but you can play around with it and see what different functionality is available. So for the drop down, then you can see 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then let's say I select 2007. It's going to give me the average sale price for 2007 and just show this graph for 2007. So that's the power of the slicer. If we want another slicer, so we can add one later. If we add another visual. I know I'm doing a lot of talking. If anyone has any questions, just cut me off. Okay, cool. Another cool graph that we can do is the tree or the tree map. This just kind of gives you a very high level summary of what you're trying to show to the end consumer again. And then you can drill down further into the different fields that you have here. So in our case, what we want for category is going to be that sale price, or for details, it's going to be a sale price. So another way to add your data to your visualization is to drag the specific column into a specific area. So if details is sale price, I was wrong, it's gonna be values, I'm so sorry. It's gonna be values is gonna be sale price, so we drag that there. If we want to get into details about, let's say, let's do neighborhood for the category, but you can, again, you can play around with it depending on what data you want to show to the end user. So that's why it's important to speak with the end user, understand what they're about, and then deliver a report so that they can consume it and get the most out of this overview page and then further details. So again, we have some sale price, don't want some, move that to average. For our category, we have neighborhoods, and then let's say we want to change it up. We want to do building type. That looks a bit messy. That's a lot of categories. Maybe we switch building type over here, put neighborhood there. That looks like a more cohesive representation, because you can see over here, when you hover over, you can see neighborhood, the different neighborhoods, different building types, and then you can see that the one farm building type has the most coverage, the highest average selling price, as compared to the other types of buildings. So with that, then you can add an additional slicer for building type. If we go over here, and maybe you want to filter on duplex, and then you can narrow in on duplex. Here. Similar to the year sold, we probably want this to be a drop down. So we will go to slicer settings, change this to drop down, and then have that here. You can make this a lot prettier. So let's say we want to add borders to our KPI card. Then we can go to general properties. I'm so sorry. Visual border, turn it on. Maybe we want to add a few random corners. Let's go to 5. No, that's 6. And then that just enhances the feature itself to make it more prominent when someone is reading the report. You can do the same thing with any of these visuals. The last piece that I want to add before handing it over to Pavneet is our page navigation. So Pavneet's going to build a report on another page. So if I were to create another page, I'd do so down here. Let's call this our analysis tab. Go back to our overview, and if we want to navigate between two pages, then we can add a button. So again, that's in the insert tab up here. We go to button, and if we go to navigator down here, page navigation, then that gives us a button where we can swap between the overview and analysis tab depending on how many pages you have. So to switch, if you're on Power BI desktop, then you'll click the control button if you're on a PC, and I think the command button if you're on a Mac. I don't have a Mac, actually I do, but like not this one. Click control and then click analysis, and that'll bring you to the analysis tab. For consistency's sake, before I hand it off to Pavneet, if we click on our button and then click the shift key and click our Vancouver Housing Crisis 2026, copy, and then go to analysis and paste, then those two pieces will be in the same exact spot on both tabs, so that it just adds a level of consistency between the two pages. Questions? Cool. And Pavneet, it's all yours.
Yeah, do you want to give a couple of minutes for anyone to have any questions or anything, or we can move on?
Speak now or hold your peace.
Alison, do you want to put your page for a while, maybe a minute or so, just in case anyone wants to follow?
Uh, mm, see, I think it's
I think we have sometimes if
I think you're good to start, Bethany. If
okay, sounds good.
I think we have one question.
here we go. Yes.
Alexa asked if you add a page while you already have the button that we just added to navigate, will it automatically add a new button or do you have to manually add it?
Yeah, so oh fuck, I'm muted. Oh no, I'm not. So like let's say I am at a page, it's page 1 right now. We go to our button, we have page 1. So it automatically updates. Any other questions? Was I sharing my screen? No, I definitely wasn't sharing my screen for that. Sorry, I'll do it again. If you have page 1, go to overview, page 1 is back. Okay, that is all. Any other question? Can we download the student free version of Power BI? PowerBI.com, you should be able to.
So for your own personal use, I think you can download it publicly, but if you want to share reports and all, I think you need membership either through your school or workplace or something. But you could definitely, I think, download it on your desktop, play around, just that you can't share it with anyone. We'll go over how you publish the data set and share if you want to share that, but you won't be able to do that unless you have like a school membership or something. Very good. Can we move on? Okay. Let me. Okay, I am sharing my screen now. Okay, so we already went over page 1, right? So in this page 2, we'll go over a different kind of visual. If you've already created a new page, if you haven't, then you can click on the plus and create the new page, name it analysis or whatever you like. And we had this navigation here, so it'll look like an empty page. This will actually look into, if you can see on the right side here, this thing called key influencers. If you click on this one, it'll show up the visual here. Let's make it bigger. For now, we'll see. So key influencer is basically like a visual which uses machine learning to kind of analyze different factors that can have an impact on a certain variable that you're trying to measure. Since we are measuring, or rather we are like looking at the housing data, right? What's more interesting right now? We want to see what's the sale price, right? So if you go and click on the sale price, you can see multiple things here: analyze, explain by, and so on. So if you click on sale price, it'll come here, or you can drag and drop to under analyze. And you can see something is coming here. And then let's say we want to analyze sale price by different factors. What could be some of the factors here? Let's say we can select building type, maybe heating type. If you want to go neighborhood, this is usually one of the, I think I should have renamed this. And then let's say you want to select what else, maybe foundation, which year was it built. So as you can see, as I'm kind of dragging and dropping different values here, you can see an analysis is being run in the background. So what happens here is Power BI will, as you put on new like drag and drop features here, it will run like a regression model in the background. It'll send all the data and it'll try to see what all these factors that you are trying to analyze, and see what is the impact of all these factors on sale price. So in the background, it'll run the regression model and then see whether impact of different factors on the sale price. And then it will show, as you can see, like what are the factors that have more impact on the sale price. Things like you could see neighborhood, which is like if neighborhood is Norwich, you can see the value actually increases by $158,000 compared to if it's other neighborhoods and all. You can see all the other neighborhoods. And if you hover over this one, it'll actually show when neighborhood is Norwich, the average sale price is actually this much amount higher than all the other values in the neighborhood. And it also says that this influencer contains approximately 2.8% of the data. You can also hover over the chart to see the sale price, as well as count of housing data is how many data points do we have for that particular neighborhood. And you can do the same thing for others. As you can see, we selected quite a few things here, right? Building type, heating type, neighborhood, and so on. But you see certain factors will have more impact, which is kind of intuitive, right? Certain neighborhoods have higher prices just because of the neighborhood, schools and stuff like that, right? And there could be other factors like foundation is made of concrete. In this case, if that's the case, the prices will be almost 80,000 higher than all the other houses that are made from, let's say, wood, stone, and so on. So you can see which factors are actually having more impact here. And there are certain factors which might not have much impact when added. Like if you see heating type, nothing actually shows up here. So even if I remove the heating type, it runs analysis, but nothing really changes much, right? Because it might not have a huge impact compared to other factors that you're trying to measure here. And you can similarly add, let's say, add stuff. We'll don't need to summarize the year built. Garage area is okay. So as you can see on the left side, obviously you can see like all the key influences, but on the right side, as you select any of the bubbles, you will see like a bar chart that will show up for all the different neighborhoods or whatever metric that you're trying to measure here. And the graph pattern will actually change. Like previously it was like a bar chart, but in this case, since both these are actually continuous variables, right? On the y-axis, you can see the average of sale price. And on the x-axis, you can see the year built. So then you can see all the scatter plot, which has different data points here. And Power BI kind of smartly does that, whichever is based on whatever data type you are actually using here. So there's one thing we can, if you go to analysis. So here actually we are analyzing sale price, which is actually, you can see, a continuous variable, right? It keeps on changing. There's also in this data set we don't have categorical variables, but with this chart you can actually analyze categorical variables like 1, 0, true, false, and or certain number of fixed number of values, right? How they change by different metrics and all. So since we are analyzing continuous variable here, you can click on the analysis. You can see here analysis type is actually continuous. If I try to click on categorical, it'll say that sale price has more than 10 unique values, which basically means we should be using continuous analysis here. Under analysis, you can see count here. If you click on this, something changes here. If you could see here, something comes up at the bottom here, sort by impact or sort by count. Count here means how much for a particular metric, how many data points does that metric have. So if let's say in the first circle, right, can you see like the whole circle is actually circle, basically means if the sum of garage area goes by this particular value, that has most of the data points. Or if you see here, neighborhood is n ridge height, you can see a very small kind of covering on the top, right? Which basically means the number of data points that this neighborhood has is actually very less, but it still has an impact. If you click on here, you can see it's only a 77 data points, whereas others might have actually more data points like this one, but might not have that much impact. So you can see it's sorted by count here. But if you want to actually see the impact of different variables, right? Like if you go here, see neighborhood no reach, the number of data points are very few, but it still has much higher impact. So certain variables will obviously have more impact than other variables. So this is a good feature by Power BI. You can actually analyze multiple factors impacting your variable of interest. And you can, from here, you can see what influences. We are trying to see what increases sale price, right? You could always do what decreases, and then you could see which neighborhood or other factors actually lead to a decrease in price and all. So in this case, we are looking at multiple different metrics that we have under explained by here. But usually what happens is when we are trying to measure, let's say, sale price in this case, right, only any other variable of interest that you're trying to measure, typically what will happen is there'll be multitude of factors that will have an impact. It's never either the neighborhood or any one factor, right? There could be multiple things like how's the house like, is it new, in schools and stuff like that, and so on, right? So if you see at the top here, there's this thing called top segments, and this automatically comes whenever you are building this visual. So if you can see in the top segment here, what Power BI would do is it runs some decision tree machine learning in the background and tries to see what all different factors, combination of factors can actually have an impact. Because in this case, we were only seeing one factor, right? Neighborhood and so on. But here, this is segment one, which has the highest impact on the average of sale price. And Power BI has kind of found three different segments. And let's say we click on the first one. Now you can see here, there are a couple of things under segment one, which is sum of garage area. If it's higher than this number and year of the house is built is greater than 1984, then you will see the price will actually be 331K, which is, it says here segment one average is the 331K, the average is 150. But if we have this combination of factors, then those units will have an higher than overall average of, they'll have 150 higher than the overall average of 180K. And how many data points are there, you could also see there. And similarly, you could see what all factors could lead to higher value in the sale price. obviously I'm kind of like mixing up different things here, but you could obviously play around with, different explain by factors, and unless you change, you will see these values will keep on changing. And since we're using Power BI desktop, the Power BI actually runs like a machine learning model locally here, and it's pretty fast and so on. I know we can probably try to add something, see, sale condition here. Something changes. Probably we got some new values and all here. So as you can see, I think these this is a pretty cool kind of feature from Power BI. We could actually analyze multiple factors that is having an impact on a particular variable that you're trying to measure. So any questions based on this? If no, I don't know if there's any question in the chat or something.
Seems like there's a question in the chat. Asking, are there other useful analysis other than the key influences?
Well, it all depends on what data set you're analyzing and what you're trying to get out of it. Another interesting ML one, more AI driven, is the Q&A feature, which essentially you can ask a human question to, and that will spit out a response of, let's say you ask, oh, what neighborhood has the most, yeah, so Pavni's bringing it up. There we go. Oh,
I think just overrode that one. But
yeah. But essentially you can ask a question about your data and it'll spit out the best graphs that it thinks based on its knowledge of your data, that will be useful. So this is most effective when you have a larger data model and you have more data to actually analyze. But this is a super cool feature that can be used not only in your Power BI desktop version, but let's say you want to build a dashboard in Power BI service, so the online version, then you can see how Q&A can generate different tiles. Yeah, super user friendly. Yeah.
Is this new feature that they just added, or has
No,
this been here forever?
it's smarter. It's been here for a while, but
Oh,
honestly, with ChatGPT, I think it's gonna be pretty kick-ass soon.
okay. Yeah,
But
I heard
still
that.
super different.
I heard that Microsoft is integrating ChatGPT with like other like Excel,
Yeah,
Doc,
that's the
PowerPoint,
big thing.
etc. Are they integrating ChatGPT with Power BI in the future?
I'm honestly not sure. We'd have to probably talk with the product group, but yeah, the Microsoft Word, Microsoft, yeah, it's pretty cool. I don't know. I used it the other day for something at work. Very useful. Would recommend.
most likely they will. I think we just yesterday launched a Copilot with Office 365. So you could actually use that for Outlook, Power Presentation, Word, etc. Right? You're writing emails or writing a Word doc or making a presentation and stuff. So you could just write. It's already integrated and all. I think you do need probably some premium membership or something. But yeah, you could write a small text and then it can generate an email, generate certain Word documents and stuff like that. So I mean, since we've integrated in Office 365, I believe it'll slowly come to other products too. But this, yeah.
That's really cool.
But you can see, I just typed here building type name, which basically does what is the building type, what is the, it's not the sum though, I think probably should change this, but
Yeah, so you can change the settings there, but it'll give you like it's kind of like Chat GPT where you have to configure it or you ask a question initially, and then you can further refine it based on actually what you want.
So yeah, I think it'll probably become smarter. So yeah,
All right. I
sorry,
was just gonna say the visual that you choose is super dependent on what data you have and what you're trying to get out of the report. So you don't want to just like throw in random visuals just because, oh, this looks cool. You want to understand what your end user is wanting to get out of the report, and then cater your report to that. So there can be a bunch of super cool visuals, but remember who your end user is and remember who's consuming the report in the end.
so yeah, I think play around with this and see, I think different things and all. Obviously, I think the data set here, like Alison mentioned, it's pretty small right now. It's just for exploratory reason. But if you have more data set, they'll be smarter with like, any kind of model which has more training data and all. I think we can quickly go over one of the things. I want to go over this decomposition tree. You can actually kind of try to analyze different factors and kind of decompose it. So let's say you want to analyze sale price. It's kind of similar to this one, but like you can further break down in a different way. Let's say we want to do by neighborhood. We want to do by year built and so on. So once you click on this, should I just change it here actually, but that further breaks down by what's the say. I actually want to see average sale price here. So what is average sale price by different neighborhoods? And then further you want to see in which neighborhood, let's say what year those houses were built in all. So you could click on this and then you could see in this neighborhood, like what's most of the houses are built around 2001. If you click on this one, you can see probably some neighborhoods have newer houses and so on. So kind of gives you an idea of what different breakdown looks like and so on. And you can play around with this thing. Okay, I think that's kind of it. We have a couple more things before we wrap up. Alison, do you want to go over publishing and the refresh part?
Oh, just before that, we have one question in the chat asking, did you just add the column to the values?
Sorry, which column to the values?
You add the columns to the explain by field. So depending on how your columns are ranked in the explain by field, that'll dictate how they are shown on the visual itself. So because neighborhood is first, that's where it goes explained by neighborhood first, and then it goes explained by year build.
But yeah, we could change that, yeah. So whatever you're trying to analyze will go under the analyze field, and whatever you're trying to explain, it's kind of similar to what we did with this one. You can see analyze and then different factors, just a different way of visualizing the data. You could always switch around and all, once you click on plus, you want to do by whatever you have added in the columns here, you can see explain by will show up here. If I add more columns, it'll show up, all these will show up in the plus sign here. And you could always play around and like which neighborhood has newer houses and so on like that. Then I don't need to put it again. You just click on this and kind of updates based on whatever you select. Cool, looks good. I think we have just a couple more quick things before we wrap up. Alison, do you want to share the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll stop sharing.
Okay, yeah, so just for the last piece, we'll just go back to Power BI service. So if you have Power BI service, so the web version, so have Power BI service up, then you'll be able to see the publishing of your report. So if you're able to pull that up, sign in, that would be a good first step. But essentially what we're going to do here is we're going to go to our home tab and we're going to click publish. So for me, I haven't saved my report, and that's a bad practice, but we'll click save, we'll name it housing data, whatever you want, and save that. So once it's saved and you're connected to, yeah, home publish workspace. Oh, shit. Oh, there we go. Okay, so once you're here and you click publish and you're connected to your account, then you'll have an option to publish your report to any workspace that you have. So I have access to a few different ones. What you guys should see is my workspace. I'm just gonna publish it to my test workspace because that is where I want to choose to publish this file. So you select whatever workspace, in your case, probably my workspace, select, and this will publish your Power BI file to Power BI service. So once this loads, then I'll go back to the service. So got it, amazing. Then I go here and it should pop up. So that's our housing data sample. And you'll see here it's divided into a data set and a report. So the data set is just our not CSV, our Excel file that we uploaded. So if I go click on that, then you can see all our tables, and you can look at it in Excel if you wanted. And then a report is if you click on the report, and that's what will bring up our report. So instead of our pages being on the bottom, they're just here on the left for more of a better UI. And you can flip between the pages or click on analysis, again, flip between the two pages. And this just gives you a web view of what your user would see when you publish it so that they can consume it. If you wanted to edit your report here, then you can click edit, but you just have limited functionality when you want to edit the report in the web version. So we didn't go over this in this overview, but in the Power BI desktop, you can go and make different measures, so different calculations based on the data that you have, to further refine your analysis. That feature is not available in Power BI service. And Power BI desktop is just better for your data modeler, and then the Power BI service is more for your consumer. Any questions here? Doesn't seem to work with UBC email.
Yeah, I can answer that. I think unfortunately UBC doesn't have the paid virtual Power BI. So which means the most we can do for this case competition is use the desktop version download that we provided, and then do all the analysis and the dashboarding like local, and then take screenshots and put them into the PDF we're going to be presenting with. Does that answer your question? Sweet.
That's, I guess if you don't have access to this, it's hard to analyze the data further, but like let's say you did have access, and you wanted to make sure that your data, let's say, is uploading. Let's say you're connected to a database and your database is getting fed real-time data from temperature monitoring of a power plant. And that's coming in real time. You want to make sure your data is up to date and it's feeding your reports in real time or near real time. Then you can create or go to your settings for your data set and you can create a scheduled refresh if this data set is, again, feeding in real time. So because it's Excel, not relevant, but if it were connected to a database that is refreshing, then you'd be able to configure your refresh option for your Power BI report. So your Power BI report is projecting real-time data that's being fed into your database. So that's a super interesting and important feature. For Power BI Premium, I believe you can schedule it up to 20 times a day, and then Power BI Pro is 8 times a day. Don't quote me on that. But it's a super useful feature when you need the real-time data. So just wanted to show you that. No, you don't have access. Obviously, we're connected to a Excel report, but it is useful when you are connected to that database. Other interesting features are different sensitivity labels. So if you've classified data, then you can alert your organization like, hey, this is classified data. Don't use it in reports that you're showing to every customer out there. Yeah. Any questions on the dataset settings? Okay, that is all I had. Yeah, that's all I had. Oh, wait, 2 minutes. Connect on LinkedIn. Yes. Where else? For me, that's an old LinkedIn photo, so I have a different one right now. Still the same URL, I think.
So yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for your presentation. I learned a lot about Power BI myself. I know I always wanted to try and learn it. So this is very applicable and useful for me. So yeah, we just want to say thank you so much for coming, and to everyone here, thank you all for showing up to your workshops. Hopefully you learned a lot from either Celonis or Microsoft. If you have any more questions, they drop their LinkedIns in the chat. I'm assuming you can feel free to reach out to them, as well as our first presenters in Celonis. And if you have any questions for us or about the case, feel free to message us at Bolt. Thank you so much for coming out. I know we hopefully learned a lot. I'm still processing some of the things, but yeah, thank you and good luck on all your cases. Hope you have an excellent day so far.